11 psychological triggers that smash an avoidance walls and make them chase you. Most people believe the way to pull an avoidant back is through big gestures, endless texting, or pouring out your heart in desperate attempts to prove your love. They think if they just push harder, if they fight harder, if they show enough pain, the avoidant will finally wake up. But the truth is, none of that works. In fact, it pushes them further. Every long message, every plea, every attempt to remind them of the past only reinforces their deepest fear. That love is a trap, that closeness equals losing freedom. What actually makes an avoidant crawl back isn't begging or chasing. It's not even looking your best or flaunting your worth. What really pulls them back are the quiet psychological shifts that cut right through their defenses, the subtle triggers that flip the story they've been telling themselves for years. And once those triggers are set in motion, they don't even understand why they feel pulled back. All they know is they can't stop thinking about you. They can't push you out of their mind. They find themselves circling back against their own rules, against their own logic. It always begins in silence. Not the kind of silence that screams bitterness. Not the silence of someone waiting for a response with their phone in hand, refreshing notifications in the middle of the night. No, the silence that pulls an avoidant back is the silence that comes when your life is suddenly too full to obsess, when your energy is no longer tied to them, when your world expands so wide that their absence barely dents it. Avoidants have a radar for pretense. They can sense when you're pretending to be fine, but secretly breaking inside. But when the silence is real, when you've redirected your energy into something greater, when the ground beneath you is steady even without them, they feel the absence like a sudden void, and that void rattles them. Because for the first time, they aren't at the center, and they don't know how to live with that. The second crack comes through acceptance. Avoidants are wired to expect panic when they distance themselves. They anticipate long messages, explanations, tears, drama. That's their test. That's the script they've seen play out before. But when you meet their withdrawal with acceptance, not cold, not bitter, but calm, steady acceptance that says, I won't chase you. I respect your space. It shatters their expectations. You become the one person who doesn't feed their fear that love means suffocation. That kind of emotional maturity is so rare it stops them in their tracks. They lie awake asking themselves why you aren't chasing, why you aren't fighting. And the question doesn't leave them. It lingers, eating at their certainty, whispering that maybe you're different from everyone else they've ever pushed away. They're used to chaos. They're used to partners unraveling under pressure, arguments spiraling into accusations, tears, or pleas. That chaos justifies their running. It gives them proof that intimacy always ends in disaster. But when they meet your calmness, when you refuse to let their withdrawal shake your foundation, it rewires everything. Suddenly, conflict doesn't equal danger. It doesn't equal loss of control. You become the person who can withstand storms without breaking. And that experience, it sticks. It leaves an imprint because it's the opposite of what they've known. Instead of feeling trapped, they feel strangely safe. And safety to an avoidant is addictive. But nothing destabilizes them more than growth. They walk away believing they've got you figured out. They carry a mental checklist of your flaws, your mistakes, your weaknesses, convincing themselves they were justified in leaving. They believe the story they wrote, that the relationship couldn't work, that you weren't what they needed. But when you change, when you evolve into someone stronger, more radiant, more alive, it breaks their narrative apart. Maybe you start the business you always dreamed of. Maybe you finally crush the insecurities that caused old fights. Maybe your energy transforms into something magnetic. The person they walked away from no longer exists. And the person you become? That's someone they can't stop staring at. Growth forces them to admit they underestimated you. And suddenly, they're haunted by the possibility that they left right before you became extraordinary. The next blow is happiness. They expect your world to dim without them. They expect to see pain, longing, shadows of grief that prove they mattered. It isn't malicious, it's survival. They need to believe they were significant enough to leave scars. So when they see you not just surviving, but thriving, laughing louder, living brighter, chasing adventures, they feel the ground shift beneath them. They realize maybe they weren't the light in your world at all. Maybe they were the shadow. That realization burns. It forces them to question whether leaving gave them freedom or whether leaving cost them the one person who made life shine. And that question doesn't just sting, it lingers, replaying every time they see you smile without them. And then the world around you becomes their enemy. They believe they were the most desirable one in the relationship. They assumed without them, your social circle would shrink. They imagined you fading in the background. But when they see the opposite, when they see you surrounded, admired, chosen by others, it shakes their pride. They notice your name being mentioned. They see you tagged in photos, alive in circles they can't access. They hear about your achievements. They catch glimpses of people being drawn toward you, and it destroys their old belief that they were the prize. Social proof becomes their torment. They start to realize they weren't the one who elevated you. You're the one they should have held on to. But the most devastating moment comes when they feel you slipping away, not with noise, not with anger, but with quiet dignity. Avoidants only chase when they realize someone won't cling. If they sense you'll always be there, no matter what, they have no urgency to move. But when they feel your absence in their bones, when they sense that you found the strength to walk away, even if you still care, it terrifies them. They see you as irreplaceable in that moment, a rare presence they let slip, and the fear of losing you doesn't push them away. It pulls them closer. And finally, the world flips upside down. For years, they've been the ones who needed distance, who controlled the rhythm, who decided when intimacy was too much. But when your healing makes you emotionally unavailable, not as a tactic, but as a natural byproduct of moving forward, it rattles them. They knock on the door and find it no longer wide open. They reach out and feel that they no longer have full access to your heart. And that shift flips the dynamic completely. For the first time, they are the ones chasing. They are the ones feeling uncertainty. They are the ones consumed by the need for reassurance. They get trapped in the very game they built to protect themselves, and it drives them mad. What ties all of this together is simple. You stop feeding their fears. For years, they believed intimacy equals danger. Closeness means suffocation. Love means losing themselves. Every desperate attempt only confirmed it. But when you embody independence, growth, joy, dignity, and strength, you show them a new story. You show them that love can mean freedom, that closeness can feel safe, that intimacy doesn't have to be a prison. And once they feel that, they can't unknow it. They can't unsee it. They can't run from it. They don't come back because you convinced them. They don't return because you begged or performed. They return because for the first time in their life, they feel a connection that doesn't cage them, a connection that lets them breathe, a connection that doesn't demand they abandon themselves, but instead invites them to expand. That's the one thing they've been searching for their entire lives, even if they never had the words for it. And when they finally experience it, their walls, the ones they swore could never be broken, start to crumble. Their defenses collapse. And the distance they once believed kept them safe now feels like unbearable loss. The irony is almost cruel. The very moment they thought they had freed themselves, they realize they've abandoned the one person who offered them real freedom. And that realization hits like a tidal wave. That's when the runner becomes the chaser.